Hello, everyone. We are back with another episode of Life in Law. And our guest today is from Connecticut. His name is Kurt Erickson. Thank you so much for joining us, Kurt.
Thank you for having me, of course.
And can you just give our listeners just a little short bio about yourself, just to start off?
Product of the foster care system, did a little bit of jail time, learned a trade, turned my life around, own a business, and I'm a full-time father, solo. And I do the activism and hunt and expose child predators as well.
Okay. And from what I understand, you have some court cases that you're currently dealing with in the Bridgeport and Milford criminal courts, correct?
Oh, yes, a lot.
And a civil lawsuit?
I haven't filed civilly yet on any of those because I'm waiting until the criminal cases are finished. And then I'm definitely going to come for certain things. I may have lost certain things in the wait as far as like certain damages, but it's not about that for me. It's about, instituting a change with these lawsuits, honestly. I've been handling just fine. I'm very fortunate with my business, so I'm able to stay above water a little bit, which is not your normal way of handling a court. Usually they steamroll you for a reason, but I'm able to tread water here, so that's why I'm still here. 8 years on the docket going on in Milford now. Pretty positive. It's the oldest docket there. Um, Maybe rival dockets statewide with that age on it, but that's where we're at. And a litany of charges in Bridgeport as well. But Bridgeport would have been a lot more. I've actually got a couple recent dismissals out of there. No probable cause as well. Um, Same judges that signed the original warrant said they weren't valid.
So you're saying that you have open criminal cases in Connecticut that have been open for 8 years.
Going on 8 years for sure. 7.5, 100% as of June.
And are those cases supposedly going to trial?
Oh yeah, I've been on and off like the two different types of trial list. There's like the one pending trial or whatever, and then there's another one that says, awaiting trial, no court date and all that. I've been on and off those versions because they switching lawyers and pro se at one point on those older cases. Kind of jockeying it around on the docket a little, but it's always been basically no court date, for quite some years now. And in Milford since 2019, June. So
And who's the prosecutor in Milford?
Kultup.
Matthew
Matthew Kultup.
Matthew Kaltoff. That's who I have as the one in my case. Actually, I have two cases that are currently being illegally prosecuted in Milford. I don't know if a lot of people, for our listeners, might not know. I know you know that there's the Connecticut Speedy Trial statute. So for those who aren't familiar, essentially it says that if you are incarcerated and you plead not guilty and you ask for file a motion for a speedy trial, then you're basically able to your trial must start within 8 months of the date of your arrest if you're incarcerated. And if you're not incarcerated, it's within 12 months of the date of your arrest. And if the state doesn't start it within 30 days upon the anniversary, if you've filed that motion for a speedy trial, then they're required by law to dismiss the case with prejudice, which means that they're not allowed to file it again for those charges. So a lot of people don't understand that, we also have the Sixth Amendment, which gives us the right to a speedy and public trial, but the U.S. Constitution doesn't give a definition for the word speedy. So Connecticut has its own statute that says 8 months if you're in jail, 12 months if you're out of jail. Mine has been 3 years and 3 months for the first charge. And in October, it'll be 3 years for the second charge. Kaltoff is the one keeping these cases open, refusing to take me to trial, refusing to dismiss the case, and refusing to acknowledge anything that I file. And the judge is basically just 1,000% biased towards the state. And it just creates a situation where the case stays open indefinitely. And I know that you said in your case, there was delays with changing lawyers and things like that. But
I also, just to interject, I had that FTA at one point in my file, and they put it on every single file clearly at one time for one day. And so I didn't have to go to court, being that I wasn't arrested for it for a while. I stalled it myself for like 8 months, 6 months, maybe at the most. And then I turned myself in, made the bails again, and then here we are still. This is years ago, though. This has been done 4 or 5 years ago. So so it's just been sitting there.
So let's back up a little. Can you just sort of give a little bit of a brief background of what happened that led to you having these cases in Bridgeport and Milford? And I know you might not want to say certain details because they're open cases, but just what are the charges?
Cool. I got those slam dunked. I could actually speak freely about them. I'm very fortunate about it.
All right, well, go ahead and tell us what happened.
So it's funny that you were saying I'm gonna add something about that speedy trial. I lost the opportunity. I was gonna get some new case precedent for all of us. One of the cases I just beat in Bridgeport was First Amendment related. And I was on house arrest for the First Amendment stuff, and it was no threats. It wasn't even a threatening charge. Misdemeanors. So full-time house arrest and a bracelet. I was actually, at one point, I was talking with my trial attorney there in Milford. During that house arrest, I was going to file a speedy trial as I was incarcerated because I was on the bracelet. So I was going to try to see, they're going to deny it, of course, but I would have put it up on the pellet and see, just try it because it's an interesting concept. Because my argument was that as long as that house arrest remains condition, so if you're convicted, house arrest sometimes is a condition of your sentence. They can sentence you to house arrest. So my argument was, if you're getting sentenced to house arrest, then I'm literally on pretrial house arrest, which is the same thing as a sentence for it. So my argument would be that yes, I was incarcerated, so I want speedy trial times on incarceration because I'm on the bracelet.
But then
I
what
lost
happened?
that opportunity to. No, I didn't even file it. That would have been the time though to file in Milford and try that new. That would have been cool. I like shit like that because I know Milford's on cruise control. It's 7.5 years. There's no way I'm losing trial. I'm just playing the waiting game at this point. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. It does, but it doesn't. It affects certain things in my life, but not stuff I can't overcome and I already beat.
So which cases came first, Bridgeport or Milford?
Oh, Milford out of West Haven.
And so what happened with those? How'd you get arrested?
That's what brought me into activism. Actually, is my first case ever was saying to a detective, "Suck my dick" on my front yard. And he came back on and said he was breaching peace of me off of coming onto my property that I own and saying breach of peace. And I said, hell no, fuck out of here, and they took me down and tased me for sucking my dick and then arrested me for assault on them, of course, and destroyed my phone. But we had another video filming they didn't know about. So when they put the affidavit in, the cop was working up his comp claim, the detective, you could tell. He's like, he threw me in a manner similar to jujitsu. This is the verbatim what the narrative says. And I landed on my left arm with the inability to cuff. So clearly he was setting up his workman's comp. So I go and I look at the video and I show it to Matt on my own even though I had a paid attorney. I was like, Matt, what's up with this? And this is like 3 months into the case, the first case. He said, oh shit, was his words. I'm like, yeah, oh shit. I was like, because he's cuffing with his left hand in the video. The exact thing he said he couldn't do. I'm like, this is great. I was like, this is fucking awesome. Clearly, and it's still a violation of First Amendment. Suck my dick is protected speech, and it's on my property.
Why did you say that? What did he do?
So that was a good question. I was having a civil dispute with my neighbors. We were building a fence, and I retained a property attorney out in New Haven, and I got I bought a surveyor to survey, and then I also got the map. And we own 10 more feet of land and classic neighbor dispute. We own 10 more feet of land, so I'm building a fence on our 10 feet for damn sure. And I put a line up, strung it, did it according to law, preparing for the fence company. And the neighbors started calling the police. He had 6 visits in 72 hours over a civil dispute. And I got them all recorded, I was always recording then still. And sixth time they came there with the detective. And he was running his mouth. He shared videos online. We were sharing words in the driveway, and then he walked off. And then I started telling him suck my dick, and he couldn't handle it.
And this was a West Haven cop?
Oh yeah, detective.
And so then
detectives whose daughter ended up becoming famous for being a blatant racist on TikTok at one point too. During all this, it was hilarious. Like viral, millions of views.
What's her name on TikTok?
I don't even remember. I have to look back. I got it all documented. I got terabytes of data over the last 8 years.
So basically, after this incident happened, you were arrested right on the spot, or did you have a warrant?
Oh no, I was arrested right on the spot. I was kicking windows. I was going crazy. And because it was a false arrest, clearly you're not going to arrest me for that. I know that well enough. So it's free game after that. I'm being kidnapped. You know, I'm gonna act like it, and you're gonna take everything that comes with it. Especially
So
if
then
you're wrong at the
when was this? What year was this?
2019.
So then you get arrested by West Haven PD. You get
Yeah.
arraigned at Milford Court. And who's the judge?
Oh, I don't know that day.
You went
I know
through
I know
different judges?
Russo's been the judge for a long time now, but it was somebody different then. At one point, I had Peter Brown there.
And then you had
So
Kaltoff the whole time?
yeah, I've had Kaltoff since the beginning. So now also that's just one case. That's like three charges. And then so what I decided to do was start doing what one would normally think works and the right processes, but we all know going through the process, you never get the right answer, the answer that should be given, because they just don't do that. But so I went to the mayor's office first. Let me go talk to the mayor. That's what we're supposed to do. I talked to them, nothing. So I ended up going to city council. They were having a mayoral race, and I went to the debate. And I got up and spoke. We had the whole audience going, and nothing. Still no nothing. And they shot that kid after that. After that incident, they shot a child under the bridge. Brian North was arrested for it. Trooper Brian North. I don't know if you remember. They shot Mubarak Solomon under the bridge.
Oh, I think I remember.
Yeah, and they arrested the state trooper. So that's a year later, July. Well, a year exactly to the date. And mind you, I got tased or whatever that year before. So I'm in a march that was sanctioned by the family. They allowed it. They had police blocking it off. It was a licensed march. It was like an official one. And we're walking through it, and this is viral. Your viewers can look it up. You just Google Kurt Erickson West Haven, and you'll have tons of articles on everything involved around that. So what they had is a woman drive through the protest and hit two people in front of me. So I was carrying a Louisville Slugger with a flag upside down, because we're in distress, and it was my flagpole. That was just part of my walkthrough on marches. I'm not swinging there or anything violent. It's just pure Americana in my opinion. Louisville Slugger, American flag, upside down, because we're in distress, of course. And so I go after the car. We all do. And the woman gets out, calls whoever. It looked like she called, honestly, somebody like nearby, a cop. She had a blue light sticker on her car. She was way too confident in front of 100 people, that she should be scared of. She definitely wasn't scared. You can see in the video. Nobody was threatening her either. We're just loud, and trying to get her arrested for hitting two kids. Needless to say, 9 departments. It was like 160,000 or 70,000, maybe 200 and some change, if I remember correctly in the article. That's how much money it cost the city that day, because they brought in departments from everywhere, flooded the area with dogs, pushing people away and allowing the woman to get back in the car and drive away from the crime scene. Beyond me, so we're all putting our hands up. We're just blocking the car from leaving when the police are like in front of her car blocking us, and they start beating a kid in front of me, and I'm filming. You can see it in the video, the live, and I follow him. All of a sudden I go down. I got blindsided by a cop, and they fractured my L1. I didn't even realize it during the scene. And 5 minutes before that same officer that tased me in my yard the year before, I encounter him at the protest, and we start having words, and he's like, yeah, you cried like a bitch. I remember you. You cried like a bitch when I tased you. After I get knocked down, he's on video there, taking my hat off while I'm on the ground, macing me. And then it activates me a little bit. I start climbing up the crash bar on 4 cops with a broken spine and mace. You see it in the video, and then they slam me down, and the same cop tases me again. So within a year, I got tased by the same cop twice, and he talks about it right before he does it the second time. And then they arrested me for assault on police again. And this one made the paper, made every news station. The senator took my case because he wanted to get some shine for re-election. Got on every network talking about it.
Who wanted re-election?
Fucking Dennis Bradley, Senator Bradley, ex-senator. He's now convicted in federal court. He's about to get sentenced. He lost his law license. That Dennis Bradley.
I was just looking at a News Channel 8 article that's dated July 8th, 2020. Says, I'll go ahead and read it. It says, protesters in West Haven said their march against police brutality was met with police brutality.
Wait till you hear her say it. There's a video of that. It sounds just like any news. Like it sounds like a classic news reporter. I laugh every time I hear that one.
It says justice for Mubarak Solomon protesters said a peaceful march was winding down when a white woman in a gray sedan sped through marchers Sunday afternoon. They allege at least 2 people were injured or sideswiped by the vehicle. She was accelerating, said protester Kurt Erickson. We wanted to make sure at that point that the car was not going to leave. Protesters tried to detain the driver as they waited for police to arrive, but the response from officers was not what they expected. We seen her drive through people and you allow her to get back in the deadly vehicle, said Erickson. He said police allowed the driver to leave before Erickson himself said he was tased, beaten with a baton, and arrested minutes later. Boom, down on the ground, described Erickson. Erickson is out on bond. He showed News 8 his injuries. He's now facing a felony charge of assaulting a police officer and 4 other misdemeanors, including resisting arrest. 2 other protesters were also detained. All of them, in my worldview, are trumped up charges from a police department who went there hell-bent on being aggressive, said State Senator Dennis Bradley, Democrat, 23rd District. Bradley is an attorney and has taken on Erickson's case. He takes issue with police use of dogs to push protesters out of the street. Those are 1950 tactics to scare just regular American citizens from exercising their constitutional rights, said State Senator, referencing the painful history surrounding the use of police dogs within the civil rights movement. While they're at it, they should bring fire hoses. In a Facebook post.
Wait till you see the video. It's so rough. That's I can't believe it. That's word for word what the video does.
And then it says in a Facebook post earlier in the week, West Haven Police Chief Joseph Perno wrote, quote, a peaceful rally was held on the West Haven City Green with a march to the police station. The majority of the demonstrators conducted themselves respectfully and peacefully. Once the rally had ended, there was an incident at the intersection of Main Street and Kelsey Avenue. I will not elaborate on said incident at this time due to the fact that the investigation is ongoing. However, I will say that peaceful demonstrations are a freedom enjoyed in our country. Those that choose to be disruptive to the demonstrators or the general public will be dealt with accordingly. To those who were driving in the area at this time, I thank you for your patience and cooperation. Currently, West Haven police do not wear body cameras. That's something Bradley said he plans to push to change at the legislative special session, which is slated for sometime that month. And Bradley added he plans to move to have charges against his client dismissed. So a couple things. This is from 6 years ago in 2020. So I think it's interesting that it says they don't have body cameras. Do they have them now?
Yes. Great. You picked up on some great questions. I like that. It's funny because right as you were saying all that, I'm thinking of the body cameras and how and when they did go in. They have them now. Literally, and I really want to look it up so I can get the paper, but I followed it very intently. Of course, the body camera is part of the law. I followed it in the as it got approved and how it was read and how the statute was written because it was very important to me at the time. So out of my recollection, which is pretty much our point, they're either the last one or last of 2 departments that instituted at the past the buzzer. So they gave everybody in the state a date to have them because most departments already had them at that time. Honestly, a lot of them, major ones, and even some of the smaller ones. But West Haven went past the deadline, and another one did, and they were extending it in the House, and they also trying to crush the bill still on the back end or added like a provision where they didn't have to have them. They finally got them, but it took a long time, like 23 or 24. They ended up getting them. Way past those laws were passed in 2020. They were trying, they put them in right away, and it was like a year window, and they stretched it for sure.
And was there any penalty for them?
Oh, I didn't look into that aspect. I actually been, since I've been on autopilot and cruise control with all the charges in Milford, and being on trial forever and just accustomed to it. I stopped messing with them. I believe I should start pressing the gas a little again over there. Because 7.5 years, Christ, my star witness, Chief Perno, might be dead by the time I go to trial. Like, he's my star witness, and I got to tell you why, because there's still more charges than just that. So it was a campaign against me after that, for sure. In West Haven, because if you look, there's way more dockets over there, and it's all from West Haven, that I'm also on trial for. So after that, if you don't mind, may I say the next part of that?
Yeah.
So I went from that incident, making bail, this and that, advocating, doing a little more. I was like, let's go pamphleteer the chief's neighborhood. That's protected speech. Watchtower versus Stratton covers that Jehovah Witness case law, and we can pamphleteer. So I'm not soliciting. We're not violent. So, but it's very, very effective. So I print up pamphlets. Sergeant Stratton, he's actually, I think he's even higher now. He was promoted to sergeant, and he had just had a lawsuit settled against him for blatant racism on the radio that got somebody killed, like a $3 million settlement. He was making fun of like Indian heritage or something weird on the radio. In the 3-minute time span, he could have been responded, and she was shot and killed. She was a domestic violence victim, and she knew he was coming. The husband called her, said, "I'm coming to kill you," and she called 911, and this cop decides to get on the radio and make racial slurs instead of showing up. So, long story short, the chief promotes him for it. It's called shit canning in the police industry, and they promote him to sergeant. So I went there with the pamphlets, and with the wording, Chief Colonel promotes racism. It's fact. He promoted a racist. That's like, it's factual paper. There's paperwork on it. So I went through. He couldn't handle it, and this is where their case blew up. Here's where they couldn't go to trial on anything. It didn't matter if I was guilty, mind you. I could be guilty of some of these driving offenses I got because they kept targeting me, but I'm still was targeted. So there's a gray area there. And the reason is Chief Colonel was the star witness on everything after this incident. So I pull up to his house for pamphleteering. I say, we have for my organization, Citizens Opposed to Police States, Cops. It's an organization I started in 2020. And we read a statement from our organization in front of his house, and then went door to door with the pamphlets. He pulled up. One of the famous quotes is, "You don't have a First Amendment." He's screaming at me. He's chasing me around. So you don't have a First Amendment. It's going to be fuck you, Kurt. Fuck me. It's going to be fuck you. These are verbatim his words. And I'm like, this is amazing. And he challenges me to a fight at one point. He says, "Come on, brother, bring it on. I'm right here." I'm like, oh, that's a crime. That's literally fighting words. Like, you're literally challenging me to a fight, and that's the verbiage of breach of peace, And so I was like, man, I filed on him an investigator at that point in Milford too, for charges. But he said that. He said a couple other things. Made fun of my broken spine that his officers broke. Things that very, very much damage any charges coming out of that department against me, honestly. And what do you mean it's going to be fuck me? Is that retaliation? Why was I charged X amount of times afterwards at certain events? So that's the pickle they're in Milford. And the only candle they got over there right now, and it's not even a candle, it's nothing. They don't have a light at all, it's extinguished. But Matt's Talltop's big plan, well, it's out here now, Matt. Your big plan, we know what it is, it's not on record yet, but your big plan, what you've stated is what? It's for him to go to trial on my failure to appears only. All those other major felonies, 90 to 100 years of charges that I supposedly did, all these assaults on police, just wiped off, and he's going to go to trial for the failure to appears with no charges to support that. And he has to recuse himself. He knows he has to get off the case because he's a witness in it. That's his plan. That I called and told him I had child support obligations, that I couldn't be there because I feel like I'm going to go to prison. Well, that's not how the statute for FTA is written, unfortunately. That's still a losing argument, buddy, because it says I have to willingly miss court. And you know what happened the day of my court date there for the FTA? I filed an official continuance through a defense attorney. She happens to be a federal prosecutor now. Susan Red filed a continuance, and they ignored it. So that's a default. You have to at least acknowledge it and say no. They didn't even. They ignored it. That's a big boo-boo. And also, it shows that I was willing. I was making a willingness to do what I had to do, and things that changed since that other phone call to Matt that he's hanging his hat on. And the fact was, and I have medical paperwork to bring to back it up, my back went out again. The same spine that they fractured, my back. I have probably back issues now. 2-3 times a year, for life. Usually, I'm pretty decent, but it gets me. And one of those days was that, and I couldn't move. I called. I made all the due diligence efforts I could. I tried to file it on my own. They wouldn't allow it, so I had that attorney do it. That shows a willingness to try to, get there and let you guys know.
Matt is so unbelievably corrupt. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with I think it's a Fernando A hearing, but basically it's based on Supreme Court Fernando A. I don't know if you've ever, what that is. So basically, for those that don't know, it's basically in Connecticut. If you like every state is different when it comes to these type of things with protective orders and stuff like that. But Connecticut has a system where if you get arrested for any kind of charge, like that involves somebody who is considered family in some way, whether it's someone you share a child with, a former spouse, even if you live in the same building and it's somebody who is your neighbor in the apartment building, that they will label any crime as domestic violence because they'll slap that label on there, even if the charge has nothing to do with DV. So like you can get charged with larceny or something like false statement to police or misuse of 911, something that has absolutely nothing to do with DV, but because the person who called the cops on you is your ex, or because it's your child's mother, or because it's somebody that lives in the same address as you, now Connecticut will say, oh, now it's DV. So what do? They make your arraignment 24 hours later. You don't get time to hire an attorney or have consultations or seek legal advice. You immediately get thrown to your arraignment. And as soon as you get arraigned at your arraignment, they issue an automatic protective order. Usually, if you get arrested and it's labeled as DV, they'll issue conditions of your release that are full no contact until you go to court the next day. The next day when you go to court, normally family relations will look at the case and say, oh, well, you know, we're going to change it. So it's just a basic protective order that just says, don't assault, don't harass, this and that, but not a full no contact. If they see that you have a record of violence or multiple DV convictions and things like that, or if there's other concerns, they could escalate it to being a residential stay away, full no contact, or even the most restrictive is a full no contact with also a stay away of saying you can't go 100 yards within 100 yards of them or something like that. So they can also add in other restrictions, whatever they want. They can say other, you know, you're not allowed to post on Facebook. And then it's like, they could say whatever they want. As long as it's written on that protective order, those become conditions. Well, somebody tried to challenge it because when they slap you with that protective order, you don't get to have an actual hearing. You're basically just, there's no due process whatsoever. And so because of that, he challenged it because most of the time it can restrict you from seeing your kids. It can restrict you from going to your house and things like that. He challenged it and won. And the Supreme Court in Connecticut said that if somebody gets arrested for so-called DV charge and the state is going to put a protective order on them, if at the arraignment, and this is important because you have to ask for it at your arraignment, not later. So if you go at your arraignment, you say on the record, I want a Fernando A hearing. The state then is required by law to give you a hearing where the state has the burden of proof, where they're required to prove that they have to prove that it's necessary to keep the protective order in effect. So in my situation, the person who was the protected party by the protective order is my ex, who is like, his nickname is Ninja because he did like trainings of jujitsu, got to really high levels of all these martial arts, did training with cage fighting and all this crazy stuff. He can take down somebody who's 6+ feet, 200+ pounds easily. And I've seen him do it. There's no reason why somebody like him would need protection from me in any way. I don't stalk him. I don't harass him. I don't talk to him. I completely leave him alone. But he stalks me. He watches my social media from fake pages. He harasses me. He sends me disturbing, inappropriate messages in writing and like all these crazy things that point to him being abusive and me needing protection from him. But they tried to put an automatic protective order protecting him from me. So when in my first arraignment, I didn't know that you could ask for that. So when I got arrested by Milford PD, like 6 months later, I got charged with felony violation of protective order. Milford Court put another protective order on. So now instead of having one protective order, now I had two protective orders. The same person had 2 protective orders protecting him from me instead of 1, and both of the protective orders were identical. They both said the same exact thing, except there were just 2 of them. So instead of getting 1 felony charge, now you get 2. So I was like, I want a Fernando A hearing. And then the prosecutor was like, oh, you don't have the right for that because you don't live together. And I'm like, I do have the right for that. The law says that anybody who requests it has that right. And then they're like, okay, fine, we'll give you one. So I was like, good. So I said to Matt Kaltoff, listen, you cannot prove that it's necessary for this grown man to have this protective order to protect him from me. It heavily restricts me. It makes it so I can't possess firearms or ammunition. It makes it so I can't go near his house, which is where my child lives. It makes it so I can't interfere with him, which they arrested me for going to get records at the doctor's office. They said that's interfering with him, even though that's my legal right and that's a public place and it doesn't say stay away from him. Like, it turns any little thing into a felony. And so I said, this restricts me so much and it's unnecessary. So I'm like, I want my hearing. They're like, okay. So as soon as they scheduled the hearing, I started filing like applications for subpoenas to subpoena like the police officer that arrested him for a risk of injury charge, risk of injury to a minor, and all these other things that would prove that he's like abusive and dangerous and that this whole prosecution is a sham. So then Kaltoff calls me and he's like, listen, we're going to cancel your Fernando A hearing. And I was like, what do you mean you're going to cancel it? I had subpoenas granted. I've been preparing for this hearing. It's my legal right. I was told I'm going to get it. I followed
withdrawn his protective order.
I said, I followed the law. I requested it at the arraignment. You have to give it to me. He says, oh, well, we decided that we're going to cancel it because we're just going to agree with you. And we're going to concede and say that we agree having this protective order is unnecessary. So we're just going to cancel the protective order and you're not going to have your Fernando A hearing. I said, what about the other protective order? He's like, oh, well, we're not prepared to get rid of the other one right now. So you're telling me you cannot prove that it's necessary to have protective order B, which is identical to protective order A. So you don't need protective order B and it's unnecessary for his protection, but you're demanding that protective order A, which is identical to that one, stays in effect. And he says, well, I'm saying we don't need 2. You don't need 2. And he had said before that if a lawyer told me that if they say at the Fernando A hearing that they can't prove that they need the protective order, then that should be used as a legal argument to get them to drop the first protective order. Because a lot of times they'll drop it. Like, I have a clean record. He has a record of DV and violent crime. And so it's like, how is it that the person with a violent record needs the highest level of protection available that restricts me so much? So Kaltoff tried to play games like that. And then also they have a legal right that as soon as they know that there's no probable cause, they're required by law to stop the prosecution. So like when you showed him a video that's like exculpatory evidence, like evidence that shows your innocence, he's supposed to immediately stop the prosecution as soon as he is aware mentally that there's no probable cause to arrest you. And if it's a First Amendment thing, the right to peacefully protest, the freedom of speech on private property. Like, were you on private property?
Yeah, I was not only on private property, I was actually within the noise ordinance times too. So I mean, no matter how way they slice it, and they didn't have a decimeter regardless, but I was within all that. You know, it couldn't get more free than that. You know, and unless "suck my dick" is the new fighting words, but I hear that 1,000 times and see it a million times online. I mean, even credit to Joe Gritz's situation. How many times do we see Trump getting hung somewhere or something like that along those lines? People that are huge. It's the thing about public figures they need to understand. And if you notice, all my shit's public people usually. They have to accept a certain. I mean, case law says they have to accept a certain amount of more scrutiny. They have less privacy than a normal citizen, actually.
Yeah, you know, if you're a public figure or a celebrity or whatever.
You should expect that. You should expect that criticism. And it's going to be very public at times, and you're not going to like it. And if you don't like it, bye. Get a different job, my guy. You know, that's how it should be. You know.
So I know before we were talking about the body camera thing, and you mentioned about the law, and I was curious because I didn't know myself. So basically, it says, I looked it up. It says Connecticut's statewide body camera mandate for the whole state took effect on July 1st, 2022. On July 31st, 2020, Connecticut made a law called the Police Accountability Act. And on July 1st, 2022, from that date forward, all officers in the state of Connecticut and for state police and any town and city police were required to wear body-worn recording equipment positioned on the outermost garment above the torso midline and activate and use it while interacting with the public in a law enforcement capacity. And it also required them, starting July 1st, 2022, to use dashboard cameras in their police patrol vehicles. And it said July 1st, 2016, Connecticut law required body cameras for state police, but ordinary police didn't need to use them. So before 2022, not every officer in the state was required, but after that, the statewide mandate applied. And it says that there was another change on October 1st, 2024, that required updated training and statewide guidelines addressing when an officer may not pause recording. And it strengthened the recording rules. And it says that what is it here?
Wait, say that again about the dash cams, please.
Um,
Just gave me an idea. I'm about to go back to court and
so it says that about on July 1st, 2016, I'm sorry, on where did it say dash cams? Oh,
really
yeah.
Interesting.
July 1st.
That's been neglected. I actually asked for that, and it's a good point. And if they're meant, sorry, let me hear that again, actually.
July 1st, 2022, they were required by law to use dash cameras. So anything from 2022 forward, you're supposed to have body camera and dash camera mandated. And I looked up further here, and just for more information about this, it just says that July 1st, 2022 was the Connecticut final compliance date. On that day, under statute section 29-6D, requires that every police officer in Connecticut must wear a body camera when interacting with the public in a law enforcement capacity, and use a required dash camera in every police patrol vehicle.
Nice.
And it says that there was no grace period after that, and that on July 1st, 2023, they added statewide compliance reporting requirements, and in 2024, required the POSTC's guidelines and officer training to address circumstances in which the officers shall not pause the recording because they keep turning it off. And so it says
policy, I just discovered that up in Waterbury with Grossman, your favorite judge. I smoked her on it. I walked in there with the Waterbury PD handbook for their policy, not even the law. So I'm just going by their policy, and it's funny you're saying that. They probably obviously added it because it was revised newer this last year. So it's, probably this beginning of this year, or no, it was last year. So 2025. So they already had made that law about that to the post, the post, which is the police officer training. That's their certification statewide. So they required all these departments most likely to add that policy, and it was in there, and I found it, and that's what helped me with the Waterbury case. I was door to door knocking on letting people know about the kidnapper that was living next to them, and they arrested me for breach of peace. So I wouldn't get my ID. That's the only reason they were mad. And we were just walking around like normal. So we breached the kidnapper's peace, me and my partner. They said, and I went to trial real quick, and I brought in that thing because there was body camera silenced and missing. You can tell when they turn it off and stuff. And I was like, it says there's exceptions, but I don't see the exceptions here happening. In the video, and they ended up with this. They dropped everything down to a ticket, and I went to trial on the ticket and had like a 3-hour trial on the ticket and won 3 out of 4 elements.
Wow. Yeah, this is crazy. Like it looks like also they added some more things with them, because it says that that they have to have, as of the May 14th, 2026 version of the post, it says that they must activate their camera for motor vehicle stops and pursuits, motorist assists, statements and interviews of suspects, witnesses, and victims, prisoner transportation and processing, foot pursuits, Incidents in which force may occur, arrest and search warrants, dangerous or unpredictable incidents, and other direct individualized law enforcement contact with the public. It also requires other officers arriving at the scene to record, not just the first officer. They're not allowed to turn it off. The current policy says once the camera is activated, it must remain activated until the interaction was concluded. Specifically says they may not deactivate during interaction with public, but Milford did like 10 times. And it says that limited exceptions.
Look at that. You're getting more ammo for your side now too, see? It's good.
Yeah. And then it says, can they mute the audio?
Yes and no. There's different times. I know there is. I didn't look at that one, but the way they wrote it in that policy book, I know it came from you know what I mean? It came from some kind of law for sure. So I would presume that they're following it since it's specifically written, you know. There's times when they can mute it to a victim that's sensitive, things like that, you know, conversations amongst the higher ranks or officers, which I don't believe should be. They allow situations like that where it could be turned off or quieted.
Yeah, it says like some exceptions are like they can mute it before the interaction has concluded only when the officers are not in personal contact with a member of the public. So example is if they step away from everyone involved to discuss protected tactical information or another matter, but they should not mute while speaking with you, questioning you, detaining you, searching you, taking statement, or otherwise interacting directly with you. And it says about, I also looked up because if you ever notice those Axon, which is the ones that in Connecticut, they use that brand Axon, AXON. It said they're like,
I got a whole program with them because I have to get some big body cameras.
Okay, well, do you notice that in those ones when it's not edited, the first like minute is muted? You notice
30
that?
seconds. Yeah, so
Okay.
what it is that's pre-activation. So when they activate the body camera, it records 30 seconds before with no sound.
Yeah, it says here that
That's how I can beat my Bridgeport case for suppression if I want, but I'm actually trying to beat on the merits that it wasn't a firearm because I'd rather go pick up my device that they seized from me. But I do have them on the gun charge no matter what because of that very reason for the body camera. So what it did is it caught the cop, Officer Salchi. It caught the first 30 seconds before he activated it, and it shows the CAD computer in his car while he's driving. And on the CAD, my name and information is already pulled up, right? So clearly I'm on there and on his radar for whatever reason. Then he sees me in traffic. You see it seeing me in traffic after my name's pulled up. And then he pulls me over for the traffic infraction. So his affidavit for arrest, you know, the arrest paperwork on the gun charge, it says that he watched me commit a traffic infraction, then pulled me over. He was on normal, regular traffic duty. And it's clearly targeted because why was I in his computer before he seen me in traffic?
yeah. And it's not like he ran your plate.
100%. So clearly, because what I was doing right before that, I have a live video with a couple thousand views. I was helping a mother file a police complaint at the Bridgeport Police Department against a Bridgeport police officer that has one of those guys with the civil protective order against my speech because I exposed him. Officer Sorie Kamara, he's been at Barrows hearing. He's been unbecoming even on their own system. He has all sorts of stuff against him. And so we were filing this complaint. Hold on. We were filing this complaint and they seen it clearly. My dash cameras in my truck, I have like 4 cameras and they're rigged up to 4G. So I get instant alerts when there's stuff going on around my vehicle. And cops snooping around it while I'm up there at the police station, you know, and my car's downtown. So I'm like, cool, whatever. And I go down, I'm hanging out, and then I pull off, and that's when they pulled me over at the corner. You see him racing up to me. And even in his own video, he races up and stops and waits for me. And then lets me go around the corner, and then it hits his legs. It didn't go how his narrative said in his sworn affidavit statement, which is quite concerning. But you know what you just gave me an idea with, which is funny.
What?
I am known pro se and one of my best tactics, because it's always a false arrest. One of my best tactics are putting on my fucking football cleats and running them down for discovery. I am a murderer on the docket for getting discoveries. And so much so I've had to do motion to compels because they're just playing kick games. And so I had to compel them over and over for these body cameras for this gun case. And they held one back that was pretty concerning at first. But I've also noticed they've held back now. I'm thinking about it, all the dash cameras. All I got is body cams. Where's all my dash cameras that are state mandated? And
Did
why
you
aren't those
request
up
them?
there? Yes, specifically, multiple times. One time they didn't give me everything because I was aware of one. So I remember the special one that I was waiting for the body camera, and they excluded it 2 times on my request. And it was the sergeant from booking. He comes over to my cell. You see him hit the thing? And I already knew. I said, I'm very candid, even when I'm locked up, I'm pretty calm. So I'm like, oh man, that's no good. You're turning on your body cameras. Can't be good news. You hear me say that in the video. And he's like, yeah, they're making me charge you with possession of a firearm by a felon. He's like, I don't think it's a gun you had either. I know it's not a firearm. I'm a firearms guy. This is what this sergeant's telling me. I'm like, so I was like, so who's they? They're making you charge me with this. I think that's interesting. He's like, the gun safety tracing task force. I'm like, I was like, but you just said you don't think it's a firearm. I was like, well, I was like, I appreciate you coming to tell me. And I was like, what do you mean? You mean this statute right here on my arm? And I got the 53A217 on my arm because it's a firearm. It's part of my whole life. I used to live that life 20 years ago. And so much so that it was on my arm. And I told him, I was like, well, I know that statute inside and out, and it hasn't changed. And I was like, good luck with that. I was like, can you at least, since you seem decent because they're making you, I was like, hey, can you make my bond reflect your opinion of what it is? And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna see what I can do because he's in charge of that. I was like, that's fucking good. He gave me a 10K bond for possession of firearm by a felon. That's unheard of. It's at least 50 or 100, especially me. It should have been jacked through the roof. But what I carry and have is a burner. That's legal. It's air powered. It's paintball gun category. Paintball guns aren't regulated even in the dangerous weapon list. The BB guns are. It's not a BB gun. It's the size of a paintball and it's plastic. It's designed to stop people, but not kill them. It's non-lethal. It's not even less lethal. It's non-lethal. So it's 100% felon approved and legal in 50 states. And that's what the company advertises.
So is
And
it,
now they've actually
there's no
changed it this
law,
year.
sorry, there's
They
no
changed it
law
this
that
year.
like,
Berna, real quick,
Mhm.
Berna, the company for those devices, they've actually offered insurance now for police season of it, and they'll give you a new one.
Wow. But like there's no law in Connecticut that says those aren't allowed or they're not
No, so
what do you
here's
call
what they yeah, so
regulated?
they tried. So what they did is they doubled up the charge. They gave how they do that, try to catch you on something, So they gave me possession of fire by felon, and they also gave me illegal weapon in a motor vehicle. There's a problem with both those statutes. First of all, I don't meet firearm requirements federally or statewide. There's not combustion, so it's not a firearm. That's out. There's no gunpowder involved. There's no fire. Um, and then the second thing, I'm losing my train of thought here. The illegal weapon charge. So the firearm charge wasn't even acknowledged in court, by the way. They didn't even entertain it. I mean, they're keeping it on there because it's part of the docket, but they haven't entertained that. The offer on the table right now for illegal weapon they want to give me is no time in jail and essentially like a nollie type. It goes away in a year.
So
Like
it says that you have a conviction that was found guilty in 2023 and that it has an unconditional discharge. So what did they tell you that unconditional discharge means?
what?
It says
Which one?
larceny in the
Oh,
5th degree.
so
That's the only
that's
conviction that
actually
shows up for you.
that's under the Alford doctrine too. So here's my issue with that. And we've all made these mistakes potentially, and don't do it. I'd like to tell your listeners. So during that time, I was on that house arrest with the DCF First Amendment case in Bridgeport. I had all those cases in Milford still, because it was still during that time. I had a lot on my plate as a single father, and my lawyer's advice: don't take your lawyer's advice. This is a lesson. My lawyer, for all the stuff that I had going on in Bridgeport with the DCF First Amendment fight, he's like, dude, it's a larceny, nothing. He's like, just take it. And, he's like, I was pro se on it out there. He's like, just take it because he was out in New Haven. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't even thinking about it. Like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I got major felonies on my record. I say, I'll do it under the Alford. And during when I'm speaking at the end, during sentencing, with no time in jail or whatever, and I said, I'll say my piece about it. And I'm gonna get the transcripts now for that. It's a good idea. I never got those. But what happened, long story short, with that, I'm not a thief. This was a contract dispute with a customer. is a civil matter with the same victim. So I was forced, I made a payment and I fled under the Alfred just to dispose of it. I think my beauty with that, honestly, is under the Alfred, I think I could go back and open it.
So what about you had
And I, you know
another?
that? I don't know.
I don't know for sure, but I do see you have another conviction here that says failure to appear in the second degree, which you were found guilty on February 27th, 2020. And it also says unconditional discharge. So like sometimes with a conditional discharge, they'll say like, oh, we'll discharge it as long as you don't get arrested again. And if you do get arrested again, you owe us a year, you owe us 6 months. So
Yeah,
when
they
it is
never did that to my new
unconditional,
arrest. Yeah,
so
they
these
never
two
violated it.
so these two convictions, when they told you an unconditional discharge, did they say you would owe time to the state if you got in trouble again, or was it just getting thrown out?
It's basically getting thrown out. I don't know what
Getting
the
thrown
FTA
out,
was. Was that the same? Where was that at? I keep seeing that
Bridge
pop up actually.
Bridgeport.
In 2020.
You were arrested on February 4th, 2019, and sentenced on February 27th, 2020, in Bridgeport. You were arrested by State Police Troop G, and your offense was failure to appear. And the other charge, you were arrested on September 15th, 2022, sentenced February 23rd, 2023. Larceny fifth. So those are the two things that show up as convictions on your record currently. And then if I look up pending
That's so
cases,
weird. 'Cause I'm trying to remember that one. I should go back. That has a docket number attached.
yeah, if you go on pending
How
cases,
do
you
I,
can,
but see, my thing
I
is,
can
how did I get a
share.
conviction for FBA? Where's the charge for that?
Hold
And
on.
what was the charge? The controlling charge.
You see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that
Look.
wouldn't there be a controlling charge? That's weird.
Oh, no, that's not you. That's someone else. This is it. So failure to appear, second degree.
Can you screenshot that and send that to me? So I got the docket number. I'd love to see the transcripts on that. I do remember something like that. That's so weird. But what was the FTA for? I was already on charges for Milford. I
You
didn't
tell
have the,
me.
I didn't have the, well, I didn't have my Bridgeport issues yet. I know that. There's so much there. Go look at my open cases.
All right. So hold on. So this we have here. So like I said, here it says unconditional discharge. And then this one here, unconditional discharge. So then now, let me switch to this one. You have this first case, which says you were arrested on June 25th, 2025 in Bridgeport for illegal operation of motor vehicle without insurance, failure to carry registration, and failure to drive in the proper lane by Bridgeport PD, and says that you were on the trial list. And
I
does
got a
this
good
mean
transcript for that one.
it says trial list date April 29th, 2026, which already passed. So that's not been scheduled for a trial.
No, they're thinking around fall. They were telling me, Stango was telling me, Judge Stango. Is it, look, you know what's crazy about me and Judge Stango? First time I went into court for the gun charge, he's the gun court judge. You know, he was a prosecutor in Milford forever. He's been there so long, he's aware of my cases in Milford, like intimately, you know, because I've been there for so many years. He walks, Mr. Erickson, he's like, I know you from over there. It's all on record. They offered me a great offer if I was guilty. Like the offer was amazing, so much so that I said on record when I declined, I was like, I mean, I appreciate the gracious offer, and after some consideration, I don't want to take it, you know, because I know it's not even on the statutorily on the list of illegal weapons, you know, so how could it even possibly go forward, you know, once I, you know, get to the closer to trial and I start filing some shit, you know.
Yeah, then you have this one, simple trespass and failure to respond to infraction. What's that? From West Haven PD?
Oh, I got trespass at the chief's house for when I was pamphleteering. I got a warrant for trespassing. After that incident, he chased me around. We had a little conversation for an hour with mad cops there after he showed up.
Then
And
you
then
got
they
Bridgeport
charged me
Police.
with trespassing, even though I never went on his property.
Then on 6/9/19, you got arrested by Bridgeport, interfering with officer, assault, PB, safety, EMT, transfer, whatever, breach of peace, and failure to appear. So was that assaulting a police officer?
What year was that?
It was 6/9/19 in
That's my
Bridgeport.
first one. No, it's
Okay.
not Bridgeport, West Haven.
It says you were arrested by local police Bridgeport on June 9th, 2019. You had a $35,000 bond and you were,
That's
you,
West Haven.
well, it says arresting agency, local police Bridgeport. So,
No, well, they're wrong. That's crazy. That's the case. That's 6/9/19. That's the first case in Milford.
well, the clerk's office is not that bright over there. Then we
Yeah, that's
got
my first.
this
That's
one.
the first case. That was the first case for Milford when I sucked my dick.
Yeah, and then this one, 7/5/2020. Was that the day of that protest? Bridgeport
Yeah.
police. But why does it say Bridgeport? Wasn't that West Haven?
That's really weird. Why is all that saying Bridgeport?
See, this is what I mean. It's all jacked up. So you got again
I've never seen it like that. It usually says Milford. I have
riot,
screenshots to prove it.
riot, second degree. I love how riot in the second degree is a charge.
Inciting a
Carrying
riot, yeah.
carrying a dangerous weapon. No, it doesn't even
bat.
say inciting a riot. It says riot, second degree. Wait, ready? This is what it is defined as, what they charged you with. It says, under this statute, a riot in the second degree is a Class B misdemeanor. A person commits this crime when they join with two or more people to do violent or wild acts that scare the public or risk scaring people. The group size has to be 3 or more, you and 2 others. Your actions have to be loud, wild, and violent behavior in public. And your intent has to be doing it on purpose or acting very carelessly, creating a big risk of public fear. And the max sentence is up to 6 months in jail and $1,000 in fines. So that's different from inciting a riot. The inciting a riot is you are getting other people to go do it. This charge that they charge you with means you actually were the one doing it.
I'm the ringleader of the
You're
RICO.
the one doing the rioting, not inciting the rioting. Let's see what else you got here.
So if you look, go back to that page. They say the correct place on that page. I just looked on mine. And then when you click it, the local agency also says Bridgeport. That's hilarious.
Wait, what?
Look right there. If you go back to the other page with all my dockets, it shows Milford or Bridgeport there.
No, that shows what court you're in. But if you
I
click
know.
on the actual docket,
I know.
it
Well, the
shows you
arresting
arrested.
agency's off. Yeah, it wasn't Bridgeport PD.
Yeah, so then if we go to the next one, this one was saying Bridgeport arrested you on June 25th, 2025. Criminal possession of firearm, illegal possession of weapon.
That's the real one from Bridgeport PD.
Okay, and then we have another one from Bridgeport, June 25th, and it looks like the same exact charges again. And then we have August 2nd, 2020, Bridgeport, failure to appear, illegal observation, motor vehicle, theft of plates, operating parks, unregistered motor vehicle. Was that actually Bridgeport?
I don't even remember. That might have been Milford or New Haven, actually.
See, then it says
does it say?
substituted charges. It says local police Bridgeport, and you had represented by DJ Cutillo. And you were arrested on 8/2/2020. So that was like a month after that protest.
Oh, so that's West Haven.
Again, it says Bridgeport when it's supposed to be West Haven.
Yeah. Yep, it's West Haven because that's anything that got Cutillo on it is my trial, all the trial shit in Milford.
Violations of conditions of release and failure to appear. What conditions of release was that? This was, you were arrested 3/24/2021.
Yeah, that was when I didn't show up to court.
So what were the
I
conditions
made
of
my
release?
attempt to, continue the matter so I can, be well and go. And then long story short, I told you I went for a while and then I ended up going in and making the bail for all those. And now they're just open cases on the docket over there. Cutillo got that too, right?
Yeah, but that's a failure to appear. But what about the conditions of release? What did they say you violated?
Probably not to get arrested or something stupid. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't give
Then
a,
they
I don't
have
give a fuck.
another one.
You know who sunk their ship there is their West Haven PD's old faithful Chief Perno, you know? He
And then
sunk
this
their
one,
battleship over there.
it looks like a duplicate of the same charges again, 8/2/2020. And then last one you have is this failure to appear, illegal operation under suspension. This one, again, 8/2/2020. But see here, it says arresting agency, local police, West Haven. So altogether, you have 10 pending cases and 2 listed convictions. Between Bridgeport and Milford is your pending cases, and your convictions are in Bridgeport and New Haven. So,
And I have 2 other unknowns, and I'll give you the paperwork. For the dockets, maybe we can find it that way better. I had 2 dismissals without probable cause on 2 major cases out of Bridgeport.
and so those didn't, obviously, if something gets dismissed, it just doesn't show up in the system anymore. So every time if that happens, you'll never see it again on the computer.
Well, I keep them and frame them. Those are
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
And you should scan it too, because then you could like upload it and show people and stuff if they ever
Well,
wanted to
it's
see
very
it.
important because that dismissal that beat the big one with the house arrest and for that ECF workers' feelings, that very important because it covers Billings, which is a very big case law for social media already in Connecticut, and that addresses harassment, you know, social media and comment sections on their own pages, which is very important because you got to think about the concept. You're traveling to my front porch to hear me talking shit about you. One, that's your problem. You don't have to come here and subscribe to my newspaper, and be offended. And part 2 of that is, you're a public person. You got to expect that, you know. And there's another dimension there with that. And so that dismissal was written by somebody on Norm Pattison's team, and it covers Billings. But one thing it didn't cover, which I didn't like, is there's also another. Hold on. There's been since another important case law for right around that time. It could have been added, but called Counterman. Counterman's a huge Supreme Court case law in regards to social media and First Amendment. This dude did a lot of time and got his case vacated after doing a lot of time. Unfortunately, it sucks. But that dismissal's rock solid, and like, so my dismissal would be case precedent. You know, over there as far as you know, charging. You know, I had a COP, I had a VOP, a violation of a protective order tied to that case, and that got dismissed off the muscle at the same time because it's all tied to it in a, you know, fruit of a poisonous tree kind of fashion. All that got dismissed in one foul swoop, all for posting this person on social media. So circle back, dismissals like that are important. That could be applied. You know, you can cite Billings now, you can cite this, you can count. Now, if you're in that actual court, it's even better. Here's court case president over here in this court by Honorable, you know, Judge Reed or whoever, you know, and you can cite things like that. It means something and hold some weight, you know. It's important, and that's why I think anybody that gets dismissals, especially with no probable cause attached, those things should be framed and reused. You know,
You know what this is?
that looks like some sort of protective order.
I think it's interesting because I don't know if I told you, I have a friend who she had a similar situation where she commented on some public post by the police, and then they went to the court and asked for civil protective orders. So this is what you sent me. So I didn't want to show the name and address, but I'll just read from the affidavit. So this says on June 24th. No. On June 24th, 2025, I, Bridgeport police officer Kamara, lawfully towed a vehicle. Wow, this person has the worst handwriting I've ever seen.
This is very interesting, real quick. He's actually telling the story of what I just told you about. That's pretty cool. I'm glad you pulled that random one up. That's the complaint I was filing for the mother. This is the cop.
I want you to look at what it says here. Any false statement is under oath. This is under penalty of perjury. So if they lied in here, it's a felony. But let's read it so people see this. Okay. On June 24th, 2025, I, Bridgeport police officer Kamara, lawfully towed a vehicle of a Bridgeport resident, and that resident recorded a video of me conducting an inventory search of the vehicle. Erickson Kurt had been using my photo and posting them on his social media, stalking was harassing children in the what harassing children in the something of Bridgeport. Kurt also had posted my location while I was working a special detail with construction company. Kurt is stalking and harassing me. I fear for my life and safety because I am a police officer. And Kurt posting my exact location on his social media while I was stationary on duty. Kurt is known to be violence. Wow, did this person even graduate school? Kurt,
Well, and if you look, a lot of the police officer ones, I got 7 police officers now that have them, and I got another one to send you that I didn't. It's not in there.
they're
But
literally like
they
illiterate.
write like third graders.
This is like so illiterate. She says Kurt is unknown to be violence and assaulting law enforcement personals. On
That's a
June
lie
20th,
because I've never been convicted of that.
yeah. On June 25th, 2025, Kurt was arrested in Bridgeport for illegal possession of a firearm. Giving the facts that Kurt is a convicted felon. I didn't see any felonies. Oh no, it was the VOP a felony? I mean, was the failure to appear a felony?
Oh, I don't know. Who cares? Yeah, I think they were.
So you are a felon.
Wait. Oh, I'm definitely a felon. I have convictions that you can't see from when I did time in jail when I was younger.
Yeah, but were they thrown out as of 2025?
No, it's just over 20 years ago.
Yeah, so how would she see that? It should be off your record by now. But
Wait, which one did you say? Say that again. That's a him.
Kamara.
Yeah, so Saurier Kamara is his name.
Okay, is he American? Is he from another country? Because his English is terrible.
Yes.
Okay, so he says here, giving the facts that Kurt is a convicted felon and still carrying weapons, I'm in fear for my life and safety. Kurt has many pending cases on assault on public safety. All pending cases are online. It should also be noted that on June 27th, 2025, Kurt stalked me while I was working a special assignment and posted my location on social media. And then it looks like they granted it. And
Ex parte was unserved, by the way. This has never been served. All these have been unserved. It's hilarious. And they're lying and saying they were served.
Additional conditions, you must stay 100 yards away. See, this is what I'm talking about. When it says stay 100 yards away, that means anywhere in the world that they are, right? If it doesn't say that, then you're allowed to be within their premises. And so it says, respondent is to stop posting about the applicant's work location on social media. And then so you went and had a hearing for this?
No, I was never served. They had all this without me.
So it got thrown out?
Without me.
You were never served. You didn't show up. They had a hearing without you. And was it thrown out after the hearing, or it was extended?
No, it's granted with those conditions.
It says, wait, and then it says that I'll have to block out the info here and edit this.
No,
but
you can keep it all. None of those. I haven't lived in those addresses in over a year.
I know, but it doesn't matter.
It
doesn't matter. They'll get taken down off the platforms. But
okay.
Here it says that on. You're from East Haven?
No. Oh. I lived there for a little bit.
Yeah, it says here, civil protection, motion to extend civil protection. He filed this was the other day, June something, 2026. And then it says you had a hearing July 8th, 2026 in Bridgeport. Did you go to that?
I wasn't served. Yeah, I was unaware of this.
It says here, he filed this motion. He says, civil protective order was entered on July 2nd, 2025 against the respondent. The facts and circumstances that were the basis for that order still exist. I continue to need the protection of this order because, and he wrote, because Kurt likes attention and showing up at officers' place of work and homes. He also drives around and posts officers' private duties location on his social media. A lot of officers in the state of Connecticut has an active protective orders against him.
Who's that?
The same guy. Kamara
That story of Kamara?
Yeah, he filed this on this year on June 10th, and they gave him or June something. Then they gave him this hearing July 8th, 2026 at Bridgeport. And then this is upside down. I don't know what that's supposed to be, but
Oh wow. I didn't even know that I had a second one from him. That's great.
then he filed to extend it, but I don't know if it was granted or not. It says see attached here. Oh, here's another one. Detective Albert Palettiello.
Yes, so you want to hear about that one? This is great. You really want to hear the quick back?
Ask for protective orders on you.
So listen, this is even better. You ready? So this is recent. He was investigating a violation of a protective order against the Senator Gaston, who was arrested for custodial rape before, and I always, on a minor. So I always broadcast that, and the senator didn't like that. So he went and applied for 3 different protective orders. Sometimes twice they weren't served and unable to get served. The third time they lied. He found a marshal that lied and said it was served and had a hearing. And I can't speak disparagingly is the words that says on his about him. So long story short, they approved all that, had a hearing, same thing without being served, and I was unaware of it. And I happened to be at his church. Because Frank Recchia had called me there for another story when we were exposing a rapist teacher in Bridgeport with Frank Recchia. So Frank calls me over there, and I didn't know about this protective order. So the cops arrived on my live, and they won't tell me why they're there. They're going to talk to somebody at the church, and I look at their computers in the car on the live, and it says protective order violation. So I was like, shit, let me get to the courthouse and print all these up. Because they come outside, and they're like, oh, I was like, I was never served. I don't know what you're talking about. And they didn't arrest me. So long story short, this detective, Palatio, was assigned to investigate the violation of protective order from that senator. So he's investigating it knowing that I wasn't served. And if you look at my reels on my page on Facebook, it's in my name. The top 3 pinned reels are his. He calls me and shakes me down for my address because he's like, I just want to help you. He said you weren't served and I want to make sure you weren't. I'm like, yeah, you're not getting my address. I'm not doing your job for you. And there's never been a warrant. So he didn't like my AI videos I was making of him and his voice in our phone calls when he was shaking me down for my address for my First Amendment. So I made those videos that are pinned, and he went directly that day and filed that protective order request. And they also didn't serve me. He put it to an address knowing I didn't live there after investigating it.
Yeah, but then was it granted again after the hearing?
Yes.
For a year?
Yes. And also back to I wanted to add something on your Fernando shit. Fernando's pretty great. You know what it actually started doing, right? Since civil protective orders are kind of new, relatively last 7 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. When they built that law for that, they included a Fernando clause in that alone, even though it's not domestic. And that being said, is the ex parte issues of civil protective orders. If you look at it, they give you 14 days. You have to see a judge and have a hearing, to defend yourself within 14 days. So that's like a Fernando add-on, at that time. Without it being Fernando, it's just part of the procedure.
Well, the difference between this and what the state's doing in the criminal side is, sorry, like you see, they have to fill out an application. They have to give an affidavit explaining why it's necessary. So the difference between the civil side, which goes for, they call it a CPO, civil protection order, or a TRO, a temporary restraining order. If it's somebody family related, it's a TRO in family court. If it's somebody that's not your family and doesn't live with you, it's civil protective order in civil court. But the process is the same. You have to prove that it's necessary, and then it gets issued. In the criminal court, it's the opposite. It gets issued, and then if you ask for Fernando, they have to then prove it's necessary. If you don't ask for Fernando, it just stays in effect, and there's no due process. So it's kind of scary when they can just slap you with this order and it turns anything you do potentially into a felony, and they don't have to prove anything or show the requirements. And in Connecticut, it became easier because in 2021, they enacted Jennifer's Law, which made coercive control. If you can show coercive control, not just the risk of physical harm, you can get a restraining order. When in the past, you could show that the person is literally keeping you locked in the house all the time and all this stuff. But if there's no risk that they're going to hit you or physically harm you, they would get denied. Now you can use the coercive control. But see in this one, He says a pattern of harassing, intimidating, and threatening conduct directed at police officers and now directed at my family and me. And he says that you posted pictures of his residence, publicly disclosed his home address, and posted photographs of his wife on your Facebook page. He believes that your actions were directed because of his role in investigation and you wanted to harass, intimidate, and retaliate against you. But here's the thing. How did he even see these? Was he just going and checking your page? Like,
I guess.
He did
and
this.
On top of it, that's a lie. So it's a stretch of the facts. What he just did there. I want to disclose it to you, but I got to do it privately, I believe. Because I'm like, oh, I can say it actually because that's why it's protected there. Nobody told the public about any house that's his, and nobody told anybody in the public on those videos and recordings, if you listen to them, that his address was mentioned or disclosed. And you can look at it. You can go watch those. It's not a lie what he said. So I don't know if you can read between the lines.
Are these cops putting the police department as their address?
Yes. And they almost didn't serve when I served mine the other day on the cop that's harassing me my daughter online. They almost weren't able to serve her. Thank God, I was able to direct her at the right timing so that where she was at, from my intel. And I got to serve her at work because she didn't want to serve her at work. But there's procedure for serving officers at work. So I already pointed that marshal in that direction, but she just was able to catch her at the right time at the front desk and served her in hand. You can't argue that service, which is great.
So this one is from Parada. And she says, in March 2025, I was involved in an officer-involved shooting as I am a Bridgeport police officer. Kurt Erickson has nonstop posted pictures of me with bullet holes in my head, made weed packages and T-shirts of me, and spread fake false news. This has been occurring for over a year as he is obsessed with me and makes me fear for my life. Kurt Erickson recently made an AI-generated fake video of me talking. He will not stop posting and harassing me, making false claims against me and my family with my last name. I request he deletes said harassment and stops posting and mentioning. And then she said, I request the court also order these other conditions. Stop posting me on social medias /news. Stop posting you on the news.
And they approved it ex parte.
And you had to stay 100 yards away from her.
And I was never served. You want to hear what happened with that one?
What?
I actually might have it handy right here.
Stop posting me on the news. But like, I'm surprised. Why didn't they try to arrest you like they did to Joe Gritz, like for all this?
Because I got the case president on this. Remember?
Yeah, I feel like they pick and choose who to bully because they know some people can beat the case and some people can't.
Do you want to see something hilarious about the update on Aaron Perota?
Yeah, it says, "Do you know? Does she know you? No, not personally."
So listen, what happened? Look at this. I hope I have it here. So I went back and printed some more up and seeing what happened. I wanted to see what happened with the results of her request. And she didn't show up to her own hearing, dismissed by the judge.
Which one?
That one that we just read.
Parada? Or
yep.
So the orders are in effect that says that you can't post about them?
No, well, it was ex parte at one point on hers. Her specific case, like I said, she didn't show up to the hearing.
But what about the other ones?
She was the applicant, so they dismissed it. So now, I don't know, I just posted it too. Your viewers can go look recently. Now, well, it'll be recent by the time you put this up, but I just posted my protection order request on this woman because it turns out she was the one harassing my daughter and I, it appears online, and threatening us with death threats under a pseudonym Facebook page. We linked her to it through her personal YouTube that she used to put a link on her fake Facebook from.
But just to clarify,
And this is the same one. She was doing that fake Facebook stuff while she was asking for that.
But like the ex parte orders included the conditions of not posting, or the court
Yes.
never.
And I didn't stop and I didn't take them down.
And then but the ones after that didn't include that.
Some of them do. You gotta look at them.
The one that I was just looking at, it just says stay 100 yards away.
Oh,
Oh no, it said for the detective, it did say something about that. So,
but it's light on the detectives. I'm gonna admit it's light, and you know why?
Why?
Right before the detective one dropped, I dropped all those protective orders. That I have like 9, a stack of 9. If you go through my reels, you can see the posts about it. But I found out about all those protective orders. Some of them I didn't even know about. You know, a lot of them. And I'm like, what the hell? And they were all being approved and like misdelivered or not delivered. And then sometimes they were signing that they delivered them. All the addresses I haven't been at in over 3 years. And weird stuff when the court has my address. And it's fucking crazy. And so the detective already knew that I called out all those other ones. And you look at all the older ones, you know, from a couple months ago and so on and so forth. Those were actually shown to it gave him an idea not to have that in there because I've been going hard on the First Amendment stuff, like how wild and unconstitutional those orders are, you know.
okay, who's this guy?
One of my friends.
What is his name like publicly stated on any of his pages?
I don't think so. Maybe his name's Danny.
Okay, because I wanted to talk to him. I've been trying to get in touch with him to see about having him on, but I saw when I was Googling you before that he posted recent videos with you trying to hand stuff out and all this stuff and whatever. But I also pulled up this, so let me change this. So this is your page. So what do you want to show?
Oh, I can't even see really.
You got your reels and you don't have any pinned reels.
Yeah, those top 3 are pinned.
Okay, so
all right, how can I help you here?
Oh,
in case you didn't hear me, I was picking up a little.
okay, so what's this?
it's the conversation with detective secondary.
But I'm Detective Palatillo from the Bridgeport Police Department, and this is Mr. Erickson, correct?
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to make contact with you. I was assigned to investigate a violation of protective order that took place on the 8th of June. Are you familiar with that incident?
The 8th of June, was that last
It was
Wednesday?
on Claremont Street.
Wednesday?
Claremont Avenue.
Yeah, there was a response from police there. They wouldn't tell me, clarify what was going on.
Okay. Just so you know, I saw, because I've been talking to other people, and I saw that you posted some stuff online about, not knowing whether you had a protective order or not. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think there's a video up there of that.
Yeah. So I went over that, and I was talking to the officers on scene. But I just want you to be aware that there is a protective order in place. Were you served with any sort of paperwork?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I wouldn't purposely violate it. I wouldn't go, I wouldn't have went. I was called over to that area actually by Recchia. He was doing a story at the church already, but I was scheduled to do the next story with him, and he had us meet him there.
All right. Since you weren't served or anything, and you didn't go to the court date, I believe it must have been an ex parte order. And what they have to do is they have to make an attempt to serve it.
Yeah, I'm sure there'd be a service on the record somewhere, and there couldn't possibly have been even a boat service because there wasn't. I would, I love my day in court. I mean, I don't know if you did any research on me.
No, I get it.
Yeah, I would have loved to have him on the stand.
Even if they don't serve it, it's still in effect because it's technically an emergency order, and a judge granted that.
Well, when was it granted?
What's that?
When was it granted? Because it's only it's only granted for 14 days,
Date of issue was the 3rd, June 3rd.
June 3rd? And they didn't let me know about it? They couldn't call me, nothing?
They didn't call you or serve it or anything?
No, I mean, listen, dude, I'm not going to go violate an order purposely. They should have arrested me on the scene then. They're going to get a warrant? You think GA2 is going to be happy about that?
You know what? I'm investigating it.
I don't want to be a dick. You know what? I'm going to keep it real with you. Let me stop being a dick because you've been totally upfront and respectful. I'm so sorry.
Yep. Go ahead.
No, I shouldn't even be talking that much, but I just think it's a little ridiculous if I wasn't aware I should be made aware.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you know what's going on. Typically with these orders, you will get a court date to, defend yourself, and so you should get a court date pretty soon, either by mail or something else. But let me tell you the stipulations of the order.
Can I go
So
and
you
get?
don't violate them.
Okay, that's good. That's a great start.
All right, so you got to surrender all firearms. I don't know if you have any or not. Do not assault, threaten, abuse, harass, follow, interfere with, or stalk the protected person. Stay away from the home of the protected person and wherever the protected person shall reside. Do not contact the protected person in any manner, including by written, electronic, telephone, and do not contact the protected person's home, workplace, or others. Stay 100 yards away from the protected person. There's also further info on this that the respondent is to stay away from the applicant's place of worship, the United Methodist Church at 110 Claremont Avenue, Bridgeport, Connecticut, and stay away from the applicant's place of employment, University of Bridgeport, Connecticut. Respondent shall not author, tag, or disseminate disparaging comments to the applicant and in position as pastor served on 5/23/2026. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that seems like it's not out. It's out of date then. There was no ex parte in place.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It says it was served on 5/23. I'm just looking at it
Oh,
now.
yeah, no bueno.
But it says it was issued on 6/3. So I'm not sure.
You know what that means? That tells me exactly. That's 14 days. So they tried to serve it. They said that they served it, which was not true, on the 23rd. And then 14 days, there was a hearing. That's how the statutes go on. I've been in plenty of civil protective order hearings.
You think that was your court date?
100%. That's 14 days, right? 23rd.
Did you get any mail?
No, not at all.
Right.
23rd, 14 days. That's the third.
Yeah, that should have been your court date.
Yeah, so there's no way. They got to reapply.
If you don't show up to the court date, though, it's granted.
Check your
Yeah, but not if
WhatsApp.
I wasn't served.
Yeah.
That's insane.
To see what was going on and why you didn't get any.
Yeah, there's just that's not okay.
I don't know. Maybe.
So, are we gonna have? Is there more on the end of that? I cut you off. So they served it on the 23rd. So what are we gonna do? Are we gonna get me a discretionary pass on this first one, or are we gonna go through the motions on it and see the legality of this?
That's not something I can do.
Or is this?
Court order, as far as I know, is in effect.
So you want me to go turn myself in?
I got to speak with the prosecutor and all that to see what's going on with this, because I know there's a few issues with it. But I've got to figure them all out. And, this is my number and everything. I'll be in contact with you. But in the meantime, just, go through your mail, see if you got any sort of...
I don't. I didn't receive... I know I'm very familiar about service. I should have got a...
Okay, are you still there?
Yeah. I
Okay,
was going to tell you, check your WhatsApp.
okay.
Seriously, it's going to give you some context of why. So the only one that disclosed anything about private information is him by filing that public affidavit. So go look at WhatsApp and that'll make sense what I just said.
Okay. Yeah, and something that he said was interesting to me, and I just looked it up too, because Connecticut, like, they'll sometimes like change the law quietly in the middle of the night, or they'll change the practice book, and they just have this thing called the rules committee. And so it's like the law is constantly changing. Like you'll come out here and say to the public, hey guys, the law says you got to be served and they didn't serve me, so it's invalid. The next day they'll go change the law that says you don't have to be served anymore. Like, this is the kind of stuff they do. So I was like thinking to myself, did they change something? Like, as far as I know, he's wrong. He says they have to attempt service. I thought that was a lie. So I checked. It says Connecticut law distinguishes between when an order legally exists, when the respondent was properly served, and whether the respondent can be arrested or punished for violating it. And the Connecticut court can issue that ex parte order without first notifying you. The clerk sends the order to the police department, and it can show up in the protective order registry before you get served. The Connecticut law even lets the court extend the ex parte order even when you didn't get served yet. But service is absolutely required. For a domestic violence restraining order under 46B-15, The statute says the application, affidavit, hearing notice, and order, and the ex parte order shall be served at least 3 days before the hearing. If service is unsuccessful, that failure must be recorded and the applicant can request an extension so a second service attempt can be made. The official Connecticut State Marshal Manual is even more direct. It says it calls the respondent the person who must be served, requires a return of service before the hearing, and distinguishes completed service from unsuccessful service. Other orders also have service requirements, such as the civil protective order, which is what you have under section 46B-16A, which requires it be served at least 5 days before the hearing, and an emergency ex parte custody order, which is what they did to me, under 46B-56F, must be served together with the application, affidavit, and hearing at least 5 days before the hearing. Therefore, we tried to serve it is not the same as it was served. In order to have a violation of the restraining order, you must have knowledge and terms of the order. And that means that, for example, if the police handed you the order, if the officer read and explained you the terms, when the respondent appeared in court. So like when the officer's on the phone telling you about it and reading you the terms, that's proof that you at that second you have knowledge of it and you've been informed of the terms. And now it says that in State versus Carter, the court relied in part on the defendant's own statements where he said he knew an order existed and knew what it prohibited. But a failed attempt at service alone does not establish that you knew the terms. And a criminal protective order, which is what the criminal court does, is issued against a defendant in the existing criminal case, and it's a condition of their bail or release. And so with that, you don't have to be served. And so it says like, him saying the order can be issued without being service is true, but saying that attempting service as the same as actual service is a lie. And so even with the ex parte emergency custody order, which is what I dealt with, it says the judge can issue that order before the other parent is notified or heard. The applicant must then have the respondent served with the order, the notice, the application, and the affidavit at least 5 days before the hearing. If you attempted service and it's unsuccessful, it's not service. It says the respondent does not necessarily have to be served days or hours before the order can be physically executed, but they still have to be served. They have to be given lawful notice and service. Service may occur at the same moment the order is executed. So example, if you go and file for an emergency custody and say, the other parent's dangerous, I want emergency custody right now of my kid, and it gets granted ex parte, they can show up at your house with the marshal and the police and serve you at the same time that they take the kid. But they can't just show up there and take the kid without handing you those orders and serving you. And, it has to be done in accordance with the Connecticut laws, which means having police in another state do it and all these other things. It cancels the marshal. The marshal has to be involved. The police are there with the marshal. The police aren't serving it. So that's kind of basically debunks what he was telling you.
Well, also another addition to it, another dimension, I would say, is these orders using words like don't post disparaging things on social media about them as an order is flat out unconstitutional. You can't really, that's it's an infringement on my First Amendment, 130%. And that won't stand up in criminal court. So this civil order's ramifications, in my opinion, are, they're when you violate is a criminal charge, so it turns criminal. But that criminal element to fit any criminality, the underlying conduct, to create that is not a criminal standard that can be met, and it has to be beaten and dismissed at that point. You can't be mad at, did you see my WhatsApp?
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly what happened. If you look at the end of that video, I say an address. I don't specify what address it is. So I didn't disclose that to the public. He disclosed that with a public affidavit. And
Yeah.
that's just the breadcrumbs that people got to put together on their own. And it's not I'm not there. That's clearly shows my intent isn't um, to cause some fear or anything, because if I did, I would have announced what that was and what was going on.
Yeah, and if that was really the case, you would have been arrested for harassment or stalking or any of those things they're saying. The reason why they ran to the civil court and did it pro se without a lawyer, but used the police department address is because they knew what they're doing is sneaky. I would be shocked if the Bridgeport PD even knows about this. If the chief of police, internal affairs, whoever their administrative people are, they probably have no idea that they even did this. These cops are just going and applying pro se and then asking the court to grant these ridiculous orders when all they really care about, oh, I fear for my life, I fear for my life. They don't fear for their life. They just want you to be restricted from posting so that if you post them, now it's a felony. Now it's a felony and now they can arrest you. And so it's like just crazy. And the other girl I know, the state police Troop F did that. And they said the same thing. Both officers applied for TROs pro se, showed up without lawyers, and they put the police department address, but they applied for it in their personal capacity, not as an officer. And that's what these ones did to you. So, and again, it's such a violation of First Amendment where freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom for peaceful protest, like all of those are First Amendment. Then you get in Second Amendment.
I just want to add, I haven't stopped posting to any of these people that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, like that's part of like fighting, because it's like if you're saying like I'm challenging this and let's say they arrest you again, well, you get arrested, you fight it, and then maybe you make a precedent because of your case, and like you get a good lawyer and whatever. But you know, it's just a lot of people don't have money or resources or support to sacrifice themselves like that. So it seems like you're kind of like willing to put yourself out there.
The end of that detective one, I remember the posting part. I just remembered it in my head. I had to delete any identifying things within 72 hours of that order, and I've never told about the order. So I'm clearly violated. It's well over 72 hours, and those posts are all still up. I never delete anything.
And they never got you arrested?
I've been to court numerous times now, walking in and out. They know who I am at these courthouses down there. Walking by police officers saying hi. I have no warrants.
Wow. Well, it's just crazy. And it's like, okay.
I think that's 22 for him. And that's what I called the judge. Judge Holden is, I don't know if you look him up. He's one of the latest, the only judges to get suspended in a long time. And for some bullshit. Yeah. He's signing a lot of these. If you look at his name at the bottom, and he's weird. I've had a whole hearing with him, and he doesn't understand social media. And he's like 70 and 80, but he's cruising for a bruising with this one, like judicially. He's gonna get in trouble because I outed all those at one time, and I'm gonna catch him at one time in these hearings, and I still gotta file judicial complaints to really make it formal against him. But these are unconstitutional orders. You can't do it. You can't put prior restraint on my speech against public officials. That's weird. You know,
wow.
And so I called him captain. So here's the catch-22. I can't be violated, essentially. They're not, clearly. And so I called him Captain Anomalous and put him on like a superhero body because his orders are anomalous. They can't even be enforced.
It's so funny how you said that was one of the last times a judge was punished, because that was in 2012. And back in like 2009, 2010, like the system was not like it is now. Like there would be no such thing as somebody going to jail for posting on Facebook. Like it just wouldn't happen. And so the fact that they're like going crazy about social media, it's like they're trying to silence people that are posting about corruption so that Connecticut seems like this great place, this, you know, cookie cutter, wholesome family place where you get to just have a nice place to raise your family. Like in reality, it's not. And then like a lot of people get caught up in the system where they'll get arrested or whatever, or they'll go through a divorce, and it's like you're shocked when you go in the system and you realize like it's not fair and they're violating the existing laws and all that stuff. And it says this judge was suspended because he waited 2 years to rule on a motion. That's funny. I got motions that's been waiting years longer than that. It's not getting ruled on. So I'm about to cite that case and apply for thing. But the Judicial Review Council is so corrupt that they throw away every complaint. So it's like, you know, but I still think that shouldn't deter people from making the complaints, because at least you can show that you like exhausted all of your possible remedies and then consider whatever else, lawsuit, things like that. Because then they'll say, well, you didn't do your administrative remedies and you didn't try the grievance panel and you didn't do this. Like, okay, but if you do it and it gets thrown out, now you can say you did it and you tried and now you're on to the next option. So is there anything you want the public and especially people in Connecticut to know and take from listening to you? And, you know, what's some words of advice that you have for anyone who's maybe in a similar situation or dealing with feeling like they're being targeted or harassed by law enforcement or things like that for activism?
Well, it's real. The targeting exists, and it's not made up in your head, and it's not a conspiracy. So it happens. I've experienced it for almost a decade straight here, and it's not easy. So if you're taking a stand, pack your fucking lunch. It's the truth. They're gonna wear you down. They're gonna grind you down, court date after court date. This is all by design. It's the status quo. Where you can shake it up. I highly recommend. I highly recommend, and I want to put out an informational video about this actually. Because anytime you catch a case in Connecticut, be your own lawyer until you get discovery. Once you get discovery, get a lawyer. You know, if you're not comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get one. It's a good time then. But one thing you're not going to get from any defense attorney most of the time, it's rare, is your whole discovery. And ethically, in their rules of a procedure, they like courts because they're going to tell a client every single time, doesn't matter what price range they are. I've had them all. They're going to tell you, oh, I can't give that over to you. I can let you review them, this and that. And that's extremely detrimental when you're trying and to you as a client. And what it does is puts your own attorney in a power play and power position over you as a client, which is very sad. And how they do it is they won't do their full potential. Because I mean, think about this. Sometimes lawyers have 6 clients with the same prosecutor, right? Some may be guilty, some may not be, you know, and they can't go scream from the rooftop on the front about the prosecutor being a scumbag on this one case, because now he has to come back and ask for a nice plea bargain from the other clients that are probably a little more guilty. And that's a precarious position. It's understandable. I get it. It's sad. So what I highly recommend, surf that shit out on your own. The first thing they're going to try to stop you with from representing yourself is something called a Feretta hearing. And that's just basically your competency to see if you're competent to understand things. And how I like to set that precedent in court early on and avoid them even asking for one, I bring it up myself on record. I say, hey, I'm open to a Feretta hearing if the prosecutor needs it. You know, right when I'm at arraignment, giving in my paperwork, and that's usually enough to shut them down, and they don't even do it. The judge respects that, goes forward, lets you rock out. Then you orally request your police report right there at arraignment. Hey, I would like, you know, to do a little housekeeping, Your Honor, you know, and just ask them for, hey, can I have a copy? You start with a copy of the prosecutor's file. They usually hand it right over that day. So you put the prosecutor against each other. You put the state against the prosecutor. And that's a great tactic. And you're doing it nicely, respectfully, and you're demanding it in a way because you're putting them in a position to give them their out to be, of course, I'll give it to you, you know, on record, because you got them on record, which is highly important. Always get your transcripts. It's expensive. Always get them. You get them every time. I swear to God, there's probably 90% of cases you can be killed pre-trial just on discovery pursuit. They fuck up and they don't do it. And it's a violation of your rights. And if you call it out properly, a lot of shit gets fucking, even if you're guilty a little bit, you're going to get a very favorable offer. And sometimes you take it and run with it, whatever. But if you need a lawyer, get one at that point, but always get your discovery. Long story short, they're going to hold it from you. And they still hold it from you, even when you think you have it complete. You got to be very meticulous and always ask for your metadata now. Metadata. That's the new thing. Get it. You know, that's my research, but it's not easy. And if you're not guilty, stand on it. I got something like 47 charges total right now, altogether 50 something with the dismissals. and I have 0 convictions on all these new shits. 0. And it's a reason behind that. And I'm not going to get any convictions on them. I know that. So, it's not easy, but honestly, a side note with it is I actually developed type 1 diabetes, stress induced. And that
Wow.
was from fighting and going to trial. It wasn't a thing before. Type 1 is the bad one, the one you're supposed to have genetically since birth. And I have a full-time insulin pump on me and everything. And I went from that, from perfectly healthy, 4 years back, 5 years back, real nice weight, everything. And then I just started plummeting, peeing all the time, losing weight. And we didn't know what it was. And they tested me one day and they found out I was like supremely diabetic. So we did some more testing and they couldn't understand where the genetic version came from in me out of nowhere at 37, and they linked it to stress and there's articles on it. And it's directly related to so how I used to stress about trials. And it took me to this point to be as confident as I am, long story short. It's going to eat you. It literally gave me stress-induced diabetes, which is a thing, and it's fucking crazy. It's a lifelong autoimmune disease. It's wild, and that's just part of the story with it. So I'd say from the jump street, it's going to be hard not to worry, but you got to worry different because it's going to kill you. Literally, stress is going to kill you. If it's not diabetes, it's going to be something else stress induced. Trust me. Stress wreaks havoc on you, and that's what it's. They'll kill you, but look, they're going to trying to kill me with stress before trial in 7.5 years. It's crazy. It's another, dimension to what's going on. It's kind of insidious. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they know
And
this.
you're
They
right.
know about all this.
Yeah, and you're right about the whole thing with the discovery, and like they don't want people to be pro se. And I think that you get treated differently if you go in there citing your rights, citing the laws. If they know that you know the law and you know what you're talking about, then it's harder for them to like push you around versus somebody who goes in there and doesn't know what they're talking about. And you're saying, "Oh, give me the police report right now." Like if they're not going to know to ask that and stuff like that. So a lot of people, they will get pushed to get a public defender or a lawyer, and then the court will say, okay, you want your discovery? Only your lawyer can have it. And if you want to see it, you got to go to your lawyer's office and look at it. And you can't take pictures. You can't have copies of it. You can only look at it with your lawyer supervising. And then it kind of, like you said, you don't get to see the discovery. You don't get to fully look at it, especially these public defenders working with the state. And then also I've heard people who ask to be pro se, and the state orders that they have to go spend like 60 to 90 days at Whiting Forensic Institute for the Criminally Insane and stay in there for like months to prove that they're like competent and able to go through all these mental things and stuff like that. Like they never said anything to me about proving like that I was able to be pro se, but I was also in law school and they knew that. So they weren't going to be like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Cause I was like a year away from graduating. But I think that the regular average person who has zero knowledge of the law, they will really try hard not to give you your discovery, not to let you be pro se, and to push you hard to force you to get a public defender who then tries to push you to do a program such as the supervised diversionary program or the mental health program or any of these ones, which keeps you under the court's eyes for 2 years, 18 months, whatever. And then any little thing you do, they kick you out of that program and prosecute you. So, yeah, Kaltoff was like, oh, we'll just do this program, supervised program. I'm like, why would I say I'm guilty and take a program? I'm innocent. I want a trial. And now no trial. 3 years later, no trial. So, I mean, the fact that you have lawyers like right now and stuff, and you're still having like court dates and stuff. I don't think that you've never asked for the speedy trial, right?
No, I'm considering that over the weekend, actually.
Yeah, so they don't have like the deadline yet for that, but do you think they're going to actually give you a trial, or do you think they're going to probably throw it away?
I think they're waiting for Perno to get out of being chief, and then they'll quietly dismiss it. I think that's what they're waiting for. Last word from them is you want to hear something interesting? So Bridgeport, one of my other cases, I'm going to send you the video. It's never been out yet. Can't put it out yet. One of the charges I had during the DCF case, believe it or not, I had a big battle over my phones entering in the courthouse because I was spotlighting corrupt marshals during that. And one of the marshals beat me on the outside of the metal detectors in the vestibule, attacked me, tried to steal my phones, which he didn't know, unbeknownst to him, are medical devices certified because they control my insulin. They didn't know that, so he's beating me for my phone on the outside of the courthouse. 12, like about 6 marshals, not to exaggerate, 5 or 6, and they took my phones and dragged me into the courthouse on my court date, mind you. This is my court date for the DCF matter, and this is they dragged me through the courthouse in front of there was city council members there, my lawyers coming down the stairs, watching me as I'm dragged away. They bring me to the hospital for my diabetes. They ripped my shirt up before they bring me to the hospital to expose that I had a pump on and other medical devices because I told them, I said, "You're sorry for this." And they ripped it up and showed it to the guy, the marshal. Brought me to the my lawyer met me at the hospital, and state troopers were pulling up there too. And they ordered, and I obviously didn't give a statement, and they ordered me released from the hospital, the judges, and told the marshals to get a warrant. Because you don't have a fucking arrest power. I mean, they're limited, and you can't grab me outside the courthouse for nothing. So, long story short, warrant comes out during that process while I'm still going to that. And a warrant comes out for assault on the marshal and trespassing at court on my court date. Amazing.
And did he get arrested too?
No, so they send me all this discovery. So I'm like, you know what? I have a lawyer on that one. I know Pattis. Pattis offered me $8,000. He's like, for $8,000, I'll take the new case. I'm like, nah, I think I'm gonna go pro se on that while I'm with you with this one. So they started merging the court dates, and we both were able to talk at the same time. It was amazing. Because it was separate dockets, and that's how the procedure works. And you're allowed to, so it was great. It was almost like co-counsel. And so I was up there, and I beat them up for discovery so much so, right? They would refuse to give me the video. Refused. I specified it. They gave me it twice that didn't exist on the drive. I go to file about it and get it. They ordered me to go to the investigator at one point, and this is all I got, all the transcripts, and the court investigator for the prosecutors, and get it. And I went to go talk to him. He comes up to the window drunk, and I'm recording it. And so I got him being drunk, saying that, "Oh no, that video file's always been corrupt." I was like, "But wait a minute! In the arrest report, the state trooper said he's seen the video." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm me getting dragged into the courthouse, right? Because so he's like, "It says he's seen it," and they all described it to 5 marshal witnesses. I'm like, "Where's the video at?" And he's like, "Oh, it's always been corrupted." I'm like, "Well, that's crazy." So I write a letter about him being drunk to the state's attorney, to Nowak, who was the chief at the time. I was like, I worded it proper too. I'm like, I noticed the smell of alcohol, and he was getting real belligerent, and I noticed there was also no alcohol, no hand sanitizer present, just to insinuate it was liquor on his breath. And I was like, so I don't know where the smell came from. And I was like, I can't get this. I keep asking for it, so I filed a complaint, and a motion to compel directly that video, or dismiss it with my remedy as my remedy for it, or dismiss the case. And guess what they did?
What?
Transferred my case to Milford with all my trial attorney and merged it in there, so I can't talk anymore on the record secretly. And I didn't oppose to it. I didn't say no, because as soon as I got there, my trial attorney, the one court date at Milford with all these other ones, they mixed it in with Milford stuff from Bridgeport. And he's like, "Oh, the state's attorney's offering the nollie that right now. That's why they put it over here." Matt, call talk. So I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, first of all, I'm not nollying nothing. I'm innocent. I was like, so you're gonna say objection, and you're gonna tell them I'm not. You're gonna object, and I wanted full dismissal, no probable cause, and I want the tape. It's like, he said, Matt said he had it, and he's seen it, and he can't go forward with it. That's what he said. I was like, I know, I didn't how are you going to trespass me in court and drag me into court? That's fucking a wild behavior. And then, so they dismissed that, long story short. The next day, though, before the dismissal, I went into court and filed an ADA motion for my phones because they're certified medical devices. And, Judge Jones, I had a huge hearing. He approved it. I said, I can't see why not. He brought
Scott
up letter.
Jones?
Yeah, he's amazing. Oh, he's fair.
You think he's amazing?
He's fair.
He wasn't fair. He was not fair in my case, so that's for sure.
In my case, he was. For that, well, not case. It was just an ADA hearing, and but he was kind of in a pickle, to be honest, because it's an ADA request for an insulin pump, and I got an endocrinologist letter. It's legit. I'm not lying.
Yeah, and there's very little he could do in that case.
Yeah. So he allowed it, the phones, clearly. and just said they can escort me if they feel they need to or whatever. I say, cool, no problem. I'm cool with that. And 'cause they all don't want me to record in there. Very next day, I go to court to get those transcripts. They deny me entry again. I'm like, well, I got a fucking judge's order. And they're like, so I was like, you know what? I said, I got to file another ADA. I filed another one. Judge Reed, the head judge, took over. She's like, I agree with everything Judge Jones said, but I'm going to add 2 conditions. She's like, I'm going to add, you have to wait outside until your court case is called on my court dates, like all the way outside in the cold and the heat and whatever. This is my ADA exception for having diabetes. So you got to wait outside. And then, for my case to get called, I went through like 3 years of that. And then, I still go through it every time I go to court there. And then when I go for other business, I have to be escorted to and from my locations and stuff. So, and I can't go like a 10 court. I have no Article 1, Section 10 rights. I've never challenged it, but I got a clear challenge on it. I can't go observe court. I can't do anything else. That can't be my business to go observe court.
Even
And
though
so-
it's public, it's open to the public.
Yes. So then, but I've since beat that full dismissal, no probable cause. They ended up saying that on them and they dumped it over there. Fast forward to my gun case, Bridgeport. As soon as I was steering the ship on that, trying to get the body cameras, and they were holding some back there. They tried to dump it on their own to Bridgeport, to Milford, and Russo said, "Fuck you," and he didn't accept it. I got this on the judge's notes because you can get the judge's notes. I didn't know that you can get that, so I got the judge's notes, and they tried to kick it on their own over there again, new gun case, and they wouldn't accept it because they knew they had to dismiss it over there. And then it was funny because before I just set the last trial date and had the last court date for all the Milford stuff, Matt came on his own to my lawyer and offered to take Bridgeport's again as an offer to me. And he's like, I'll nolly his gun charge too, but he has to do this, this, and this. I was like, hell no. I was like, they actually just offered me a better offer over there for that. You guys are weird. It's not a firearm, clearly, and you guys know this is not guilty. I was like, I'm going to deny that. I'm still pro se and I'm having some fun over there. I was like, I'll bring you in for the suppression hearing if I have to get to that, because I'm going to beat it on the merits of it not being a firearm. But if all else fails, he clearly targeted me with that body camera evidence. So I would get it all suppressed, the whole stop, So either way, it's a slam dunk. Like I said, over there, they're fucked. And even so, the first day of court there in gun court, I put a burner on my hip on the shirt. And then I put OJ on the front of my shirt. It's on my profile picture. And he's looking at the gloves and it's saying, if the statute doesn't fit, you must acquit. And I got there, they're all laughing. Stango's laughing. Everybody's laughing at it. I'm like, it's a big fucking joke, but my liberty's on the line. I'm stand up in the courtroom and I joke about it and be very professional and I kill it like that. But it's honestly very arduous. It's disgusting. And my life and liberty is literally on the line, if you really take the joke out of it.
Yeah. I don't know if you know a guy named Sam Magliari, but he's out of Stanford and he had multiple cases that were in Stanford. And then guess they got transferred to Bridgeport because Stanford had too many conflicts of interest and the prosecutor or whatever. So I tried helping the guy. He was also forced to go to Whiting. They injected him with things by force. He came out of there like a different person. Like it causes permanent psychological changes, what they force medicate you with. But anyways, this guy got all these charges. They were going crazy. And I was trying to help him get ADA accommodations because I help people with that. And I said to him, like, I'll help you fill out the thing. I'll call the ADA people. Judge, when we walk in the courthouse in Bridgeport, the marshal said he's not allowed to have a phone. Judge Reed said he can't have a phone. I said, is there a court order that you could show us that says that? Oh, no. I said, okay, well, here, because he says he wanted to make a call. I said, you can use my phone. They said, if you let him touch your phone, we're confiscating it. If he even so much as touches it, we're going to confiscate.
Illegal, by the way, and they do this.
Yeah. And then I said, okay, well, then he wanted a support person. He wanted me to be the support person, which is supposed to be allowed to stand next to you when you're in the court. And, they're not going to talk, but they're allowed to stand next to you. And also other things like accommodations that he had asked for. So we go back and forth. I talked to the ADA office. His accommodations are all granted. We tell them at the clerk's office in Bridgeport that day, they're granted, whatever. They said, okay, you're all set. Go to the courtroom. We go in a courtroom. Judge Reed said she doesn't care. She's not going to allow him to have his ADA accommodations and threatened to kick me out of the courtroom and wouldn't listen to anything that I said because she said that she doesn't care. No accommodations for him. And they were so mean. They were so vicious to him. And it was just terrible to witness. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe Like, how is it that you have a process for the ADA accommodations? It's granted by the ADA department of the judicial branch, which ADA is federal law. They can't deny
Federal. I
it.
was going to say it's federal.
Yeah, and it's in all states, and they can't deny it, and there's no immunity if they do. And for her to just not care and ignore it and just refuse to let him have his accommodation and force him to
Well,
go forward.
You know, you want to know what the remedy is for that, honestly, and I hate to say it, and it's not easy. UFTA, and then you get it on record why.
Yeah, but they'll still arrest you, and then it's
No, of course,
another
that's
battle.
what I'm saying. This comes with a false arrest. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
exactly. And then
But
you got to have money for bail. You got to
Yeah.
hope they don't hold you in there
Yeah.
indefinitely without bail,
Yeah.
like they like to do.
But
Now,
that's a great way. I mean, honestly, it's foolproof for exposing it. It's
Yeah.
foolproof, but it's crazy arduous. It's a crazy process. But that exposes it, and that's where I'm different. That's why I'm like that. So I'll take it. I'll think of
Yeah.
a way outside the box real quick. Okay, we're not going to do this. Okay, well then we're going to have to catch a charge.
yeah, but
somewhere.
let's say next time your bond is 500,000 and you got to pay 50K, 35K to get out, and you don't have the money. Now you're going to go
Yeah.
sit in one of the prisons for until you can get bonded out, which if you don't have that 5-figure bond, you're going to sit there. So,
Oh, yeah, no,
so
for
that's the
sure.
thing. If people, you need money, you need resources, you need support to sacrifice yourself. Now, one more thing, before we run out of time. I know you mentioned Grossman before, and I think when we talked, you told me a story about how you had a criminal case in Waterbury, where she's now in Waterbury as a criminal judge, and you said some very shocking things that she said and did. So can you tell everybody what Grossman did to you in Waterbury?
Yeah. So this was that kidnapper case where I told you I was exposing the kidnapper, and they arrested me for breaching the kidnapper's peace for literally just knocking on the door. And before I got all the way to where they dropped it down to a ticket, I kind of forced them in it. And before that, I was in court, and we were arguing about something, and they purposely made me go over because I wasn't copping out, and they purposely was made me go over to 2 o'clock lunch, and it stated something. The prosecutor said something silly to me, and about something in regards to the case. Needless to say, at lunch, I ran out, and I'm famous for this. I ran out and put the prosecutor's face on my shirt and had it made down the street during lunch, and came back and sat down with his face on the shirt. And they go through their motions about how they're going to drop it down and substitute it to a ticket now and set a trial date for the ticket. And he's like, just for the record, this is where it all started. He's like, I want the record to show that he has my face on his shirt. And it makes me feel X, Y, and Z. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then the judge is like, yes. She was all pissed. She's like, yes, Mr. Erickson, if this happens again, I'm going to order a state police investigation on you. And in my head, I'm like, wait a minute, that's not even in her wheelhouse as a judge. Like, these guys are flagrant. And because they have absolute immunity, so they really think they can rule the roost and do things. There's what things you can do, though, and I didn't follow through on it, but I've been saving it because it's still valid. It still happened and occurred. I got the transcript, so there's things that can still be done with that don't have an arrest or something like that. Can happen, of course, potentially because there's some statute of limitations, but maybe eventually if it cracks properly. I mean, there might be, I don't know the federal laws because it would be federal at that point. But that's really a weird statement. You can't order criminal investigations as a judge. I'm pretty sure you can't. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I may not know, but I don't think that's true. I don't think you can. Right?
She threatened to order investigations on
police.
me. She threatened to do an investigation on me for unauthorized practice of law because I submitted a subpoena that was signed by a notary, which under Connecticut law is allowed and it's proper for subpoenaing someone for a deposition. And I'm a notary myself and I know the law. And she's so dumb that she doesn't know that it's the law. And she's like, plaintiff filed this. Plaintiff will be referred to the chief disciplinary committee of the state if she does this again. This is illegal practice of law, this and that. It's like, where in the practice book does a judge have the right to launch criminal investigations on people in civil court or even in criminal court? She's supposed to refer things like saying, I'm going to have a state police investigation. What would state police have anything to do with it? If anything, it would be Waterbury because this happened in Waterbury. State police wouldn't have jurisdiction over you put a guy's face on your shirt. What statute did that violate? Go ahead. I'll wait.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
she
wait.
thinks she can do whatever she wants. And that guy, Paul Boyne, that just got sentenced to 20 years in prison, she's behind that because he wrote about her and like 3 other judges on the blog. And she cried and said she's scared because he posted her address and all this stuff and pictures of her
Well, I'm
sunroom and her
wild.
house.
Well, I was gonna do her bad. So my whole plan, and I did not have a time. After all that shenanigans, I was gonna put her on my shirt and come to court, and I was gonna say rock hard for Grossman, and like me thumbing up on it, on a picture of her or something, and I was gonna let that rock out and see where that went, but
Oh
I
my
never did
God.
it.
You would be like on $1 million bond.
They'd have to that'd be the end of her career for that move. I'd make it so public. They hate that. Let me
Honestly,
get
like
going though. I got a lot of
he,
calls too.
yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Well, honestly, I think you know a lot about the law. You seem like you're pretty well versed in all this. So just keep everybody updated about what's going on. As of now,
Want to
there's
hear?
no
You know what's crazy about that? Is
yeah,
I always think about it when I'm reflecting. They made me.
they made you what?
They made me who I am. Idiots. They literally built me over the last couple of years, and my platform by being corrupt. But they built my legal knowledge for sure because I wouldn't. I lit over 100 appearances, well over 100 appearances. I'm well versed in the courtroom, and judges
Yeah.
recognize that immediately. I'm a lot different than a normal person going on the street. Not that I'm not tooting my horn, but I'm just comfortable now. It's just that's nature. Anybody that goes 100 times is going to be a little more different in a courtroom. You
Yeah.
know, it's just nature, and anything you do, not just a courtroom, any setting.
Yeah. Put it
Um,
this way, in the law school, 90% of the kids never stepped foot in a courtroom before. And so if you go talk to those kids who are future lawyers, I guarantee you know 1,000 times more about criminal law than them. And because they have no experience, zero experience, but you having to sit there, talk to the prosecutor, go through these procedural motions, everything that you've been through, you're learning procedure, you're learning the process. So
yeah, so that's what I say. They built me.
it backfires.
Yeah, and it was even funnier on that DCF one that I got dismissed. We'll go over that one day. But that profile picture, because that's really big, actually. To put up. But the thing about that, the hell was I saying? I lost my train of thought.
The profile picture.
Yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that.
All right. Well, we'll hold that thought for next time. But thank you again for coming on and sharing your story and giving your, side of things and sharing with everybody. And hopefully, if any other Connecticut people feel like what you said resonates, maybe they'll follow you on Facebook. And are you on other platforms?
No, not yet. I have plans to launch on a lot of different things. And my own website. We'll have a website up so we can never lose content.
All right. Well, we'll keep looking, and see what happens with your case. And maybe we'll have you on again later on and we'll do an update.
For sure. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Talk to you soon.